Okay, so how well do you actually understand how to add fractions? Well, if you're pretty strong with adding fractions, then you should be able to figure out the answer to this problem right here. All right, so the question is x over y plus z over w. What is this equal to? Well, this is a multiple choice question, and let's take a look at our answers here. So A is xz over yw. B is x plus z over y plus w. C is xw plus yz over yw. And D is xw over yz. All right, so if you could figure this out, go ahead and put your answer into the comment section. I'll show you the correct answer in just 1 second. Then, of course, I'll walk through exactly how to solve this problem step by step. Now, some of you might be saying, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I forgot all my algebra. I'm not going to try this problem. Well, before you give up, if you can do this problem like 1/2 plus 3/5, in other words, if you're like, yes, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I'll be happy to do this problem, but not this problem. Well, if you can add numeric fractions and you understand kind of the procedures and steps, well, basically, you're going to use the same steps to figure this problem out. Now, in mathematics and algebra, these letters here are called variables. They simply just represent numbers. So don't be intimidated by this problem. Just kind of think about what you do here and apply it to this problem right here, and you can still get the right answer. All right, so I'm going to show you two ways to actually add these fractions here. And there is a particular technique that is basically an absolute must know, not only for numeric fractions, but algebraic fractions as well. But before I get to all of that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John, and I have been teaching middle and high school math for decades. And if you need help learning math, check out my math help program at tcmathacademy.com. You can find a link to that in the description below. And if this video helps you out, or if you just enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out. All right, so let me go ahead and show you the problem again. I'll erase all of this. And hopefully some of you are out there like, all right, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I'm going to try the problem. Even if you don't know algebra, it's still very possible that you can basically figure out the right answer here. All right, so let's take a look at that right answer right now. The correct answer is C, xw plus yz over yw. Now, some of you out there may have the right answer, but you just have these variables maybe in a different order. So instead of xw, you may have like wx plus, instead of yz, maybe z y. That's perfectly fine. In algebra, xw is equal to wx. Basically, you're just multiplying these two variables together, these two numbers. So the order doesn't really make a difference. So just kind of check your answer to make sure that, in fact, you very well could have the right answer. You're just not seeing it here. All right, now if you got this right, you definitely get a happy face, an A plus, a 100%, and a certificate of excellence because you definitely appear to be a certified professional expert, not only in adding fractions, but adding rational expressions. All right, so this is a fancy math term here, rational expressions. Now, for those of you that are actually studying algebra, we don't describe these fractions here as quote unquote fractions. Okay, of course, I'm calling them fractions, but really, these are called rational expressions. So when we talk about numeric fractions like 1/2, this is a fraction, but it's also 1/2 is also something called a rational number. Now in algebra, when we have fractions like so, now this is a kind of a technical, subject, yeah, not overly complex, but I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm just giving you a very general term here. When you have algebraic fractions, you want to refer to them as rational expressions, right? All right, so for those of you that are taking algebra, you might be saying, hey, where do I find this in my math course? Well, look under the chapter or unit called Rational Expressions and Equations. All right, so let's get into this right now. And this is not that difficult, assuming you have some basic knowledge of how to add numeric fractions. All right, so here is our problem. And you can see here the answers are actually kind of small. I apologize for that. But let's suppose you're just going to take a guess. You're like, I don't really know what to do, but I am going to take a guess because you know what? I'm good at guessing. And that is what you should do. Now, if you are a math student, you never, ever, ever leave a multiple choice question blank. Matter of fact, you shouldn't leave any question blank, even if you have no idea what to do, unless you're going to get penalized for a wrong answer, and that can come up on exams like the SAT or ACT. But those are kind of those particular exams. That's definitely not the majority of exams. The majority of exams you're not going to be penalized for guessing, so just take a guess. Now, probably a lot of you were looking at some of these answers. You're like, yeah, this looks pretty good right here, maybe B. So maybe if we're adding these things up, maybe we go X plus Z, and then that's our numerator, then Y plus W. So this looks pretty good. I'm going to guess B. Well, that's wrong, but it's still a pretty good guess. Now, some of you might go, this one right here looks really good to me, xz over yw, because maybe we need to kind of multiply across. So that's like xz over yw. Well, this right here would in fact be the answer if this was multiplication, okay? But this is addition, and then this answer right here would be if this was a division problem. So obviously this is the correct answer. All right, now to actually do this problem, I'm going to show you two ways to do it. You can literally do this problem in about 5 seconds. Now you might be saying, what are you talking about, Mr. YouTube Math Man? Indeed, I'm going to show you probably one of the most important little math tricks, math hacks, whatever you want to refer to. This is something that absolutely needs to be in your math toolbox, and it has to deal with adding and subtracting fractions. I'll show you that in just 1 second. But let's go ahead and just review in general how to add fractions, because our problem here, x over y plus z over w, this is equivalent to doing this problem right here or any other problem with numeric numerators and denominators, because x and y and z and w are variables. They just represent numbers, okay? So anytime you're stuck in algebra in a particular problem, you're like, oh, I totally forgot what's going on. See if you can come up with a representation of the problem with numbers and then figure out what to do here and then apply it to this problem. That's a very, very good strategy. So let's quickly review how to add numeric fractions. So 1/2 plus 3/5. What do we need to do? Well, we cannot add or subtract fractions unless the denominators, which are the bottom numbers of the fractions, are the same. Okay, so hopefully you know that. And if you need a full review on fractions, I'll give you some suggestions here in a second. So for example, if we have 1/7 plus 3/7, we can add these two fractions because the denominators are the same. All we need to do is add the respective numerators. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So the answer here would be 4/7. All right, but here we cannot add these fractions because the denominators are not the same. So we have to do what? Well, we have to find the lowest common denominator. All right, so you can see here that the LCD, or the lowest common denominator, is 10. Now, if you don't know how to find the LCD, or if you're a bit lost, I'm going to give you, again, some suggestions on how to review some suggestions on reviewing basic math and fractions, because this is really important stuff. But hopefully most of you out there are like, yes, indeed, the LCD, the lowest common denominator, is 10. Now 10 is the smallest number that both 5 and 2 divide into without a remainder. Okay, but the actual technical way to find the LCD is much more complicated than just thinking of the lowest number that both of these numbers go into. Because if I give you a problem like, let's say 1/210 plus 3/568, most of you, it might be like, all right, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I quit. This is why I just don't like math. Well, how you find the LCD here really is a specific procedure that's kind of beyond the scope of this particular video, but you need to still understand it. So again, I'll give you some recommendations on all this. But anyways, let's get back to this fraction problem. So the LCD is 10. What does that mean? Well, it means that we want to rewrite our fraction here, which is 1/2 plus, I'm going to erase all this stuff here, 1/2 plus 3/5. What we want to do is change the denominators such that the denominators are 10. Okay, so that's what it means to find the LCD. So how do we do that? Well, we need to write equivalent fractions. All right, so how do we change a 2 into a 10? Easy. Just multiply it by a 5. But if we multiply the 2 by a 5, well, we have to multiply the numerator by a 5 as well. So we end up with this fraction, 5 over 10, and 5 tenths is the same thing as 1/2. So we didn't really break the fraction. We're just writing it in such a way where the denominator is 10. All right, so we have 3/5. How do we change this such that the denominator is 10? Easy, take that 5, multiply by 2, but we need to multiply the numerator by 2 as well. So we have 6 over 10. All right, so now we have our denominators the same, and all we need to do is simply add the numerators. All right, so 5 plus 6 is 11, so we have 11 over 10. All right, so this is how you add fractions using add or subtract fractions, finding the LCD and writing equivalent fractions, and then finishing up the problem. Now, I'm going to show you a technique here. Hopefully you know this technique. It's called the bow tie technique, and it is one of my favorite things in all of mathematics, okay, because it applies in basic math and algebra and even advanced math. It's the ultimate shortcut, and I'm going to show you this right now. But first, I'm going to show you this, which is an invitation to support this channel. Now, of course, you don't have to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Like, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I'm not going to subscribe. Well, that's your prerogative, and I hope you continue to watch this video, and I hope you get value out of my instruction. But if you want to support what I'm doing and what I am trying to do, is reach as many people as possible to help them in mathematics. And the only way I can reach people or reach more people on YouTube is by having people subscribe and hitting that notification bell as well. So it does really help me out, helps this channel out, reach a lot of people because a lot of folks out there struggle in math and it's not necessary. Okay, now why do most people struggle in math? Most people struggle in math for one or two reasons. One, it's their mindset. Okay, this is probably the number one reason. And they're thinking, I'm bad at math. I'm not smart enough at math. I hate math. Like a lot of negative self talk or just basically false belief that they can't be successful in math. All right. So if that is you, I'm telling you right now, that is not true. Okay. So change your attitude. And I'm not patronizing you either. I'm telling you the truth. You can be successful in math. But here is problem number two that most people have. They want to go fast. They're like, hey, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I need you to just kind of teach me in 30 minutes or less, a full algebra course. Well, if you're trying to learn math really, really fast, that's not going to work. You're going to get frustrated, and then, of course, you're going to think that you're not good in math. So my channel is really about trying to break math concepts down in such a way that everybody can understand, but if you can understand how to solve one problem really, really well, then you can understand how to solve a wide variety of problems. All right, now for those of you out there that are struggling with basic mathematics, what you need to do after this video is look at the description of this video and you'll see a course called Math Foundations. That's a 3-chapter little mini course on basic math, decimals, fractions, order of operations, positive and negative numbers. If you can get through that course, you'll have a very strong basic math foundation to continue on and learn other things like algebra. All right, so thanks for giving me a little bit of time here to explain the reasons why I do what I do. Now let's get back to this problem, and I'm going to show you this technique. It's called, or I called it, the bow tie method. And yes, indeed, we're talking about a bow tie like that. Now, some of you might be saying, hey, maybe you wear that bow tie, Mr. YouTube Math Man, and you probably got a pocket protector. No, I don't, but bow ties are pretty cool. I have nothing against bow ties, but the reason why I call it the bow tie method is you want to remember this pattern, okay? All right, so let's add these fractions, and this is an awesome method because we don't have to think about the lowest common denominator. All we're going to do is apply a particular pattern, and we're going to get the right answer. All right, so 1/2 plus 3/5. Let's use this bow tie method, and you have to follow this pattern exactly as I'm going to show you. Okay, so you got to pay attention here. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to start with this denominator on the right. Okay, so in this case, it's 5, right? So you have two fractions here. So you're going to start with this denominator. You're going to multiply across this way. All right, so that's going to be 5 times 1. So it's going to be this number times this numerator, this denominator times this numerator. So 5 times 1 is what? That's 5. All right, so now you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to go in the opposite direction. So that's going to be 2 times 3. So I got to be really clear here. You always start in this direction. That is your first step, okay? And then your second step is in this direction, and then your last step is in this direction. All right, so step number 2 is 2 times 3, that's 6. And 5 plus this 5 times 1, okay, that's going to be our, that's going to help form our numerator. This is an addition problem, so we're going to put a plus right here, and then 2 times 3 is 6. All right, this is our numerator. And then our last step is to multiply the denominator. So 2 times 5 is 10. Now take a look at what we have here. 5 plus 6 is 11 over 10. We pretty much did the problem. That's 11 over 10. That is the same thing as all this work right here with the LCD and all that business. So really, some of you might be saying, oh, that's awesome, Mr. YouTube Math Man. I'll never use the LCD again. Well, there's only one drawback with the bow tie method, and that is sometimes you end up with your answers not having the lowest common denominator. So make sure that you have the most simplified version of the fraction and reduce if necessary. All right, so with that knowledge in mind, we could totally do this problem, which of course is the original problem, using the bow tie method. All right, so let's go ahead and do it because these variables represent numbers. All right, so we're going to go w times x, which is going to be x times w or wx. So this is our numerator plus, okay, this is going to form our numerator. I'm sorry, this is part of the numerator. So x, w times x, so you can write that as wx or xw, doesn't make a difference, plus y times z, which is yz. And there is our numerator. There's basically nothing else to do over y times w, which is our denominator. And there is the answer. It's literally that simple. So some of you might be saying, boy, Mr. YouTube Math Man, I wish I would have known this particular technique. Well, the bow tie method makes adding and subtracting rational expressions in algebra super, super easy, but you still need to understand the LCD as well. So let's go to do the same problem here, but we're going to use the LCD. All right, so we can't add these fractions because the denominators are different, right? One is y and the other is w. So the LCD here would be YW. All right, now some of you might be saying, well, how did you get this? Well, that is something that we would need to review when you fully understand how to find the LCD. Okay, the LCD is basically more or less the product of the prime factors of the denominator. Okay, so this is going to be y and a w. So YW, I'm sorry, I don't know if I said YZ, but anyway, so you can see here the LCD is YW. All right, so what does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to have to change both denominators here such that they have YW, and we're going to have to fix up these fractions, these rational expressions, and then we can add add these rational expressions. Okay, so let's go and do that right now. All right, so YW is our LCD. So how do we change a Y into YW? Just multiply by W. But we need to multiply the numerator by W as well. How do we change a W into a YW? Just multiply that by a Y. But we have to multiply the numerator by a Y as well. So we're going to end up with YW, or W over Y, or YW, over XW, okay? So, or W times X, the same thing. I'm kind of keeping this consistent so you can recognize, the answer here in a second. And then Z times W is Y times Z, or Z times W, over W times Y, or Y times W. All right, so here now we finally have our rational expressions with the same denominator. Now we can simply add the numerators. All right, so when we do that, we get the same answer, right? So we have YW, here is our denominator, and then our numerator here is XW plus YZ. All right, so that is a lot of work to get this answer when you can just use the bow tie method. So it definitely pays to have a lot of different techniques in your math toolbox. But, if you never understood how to add rational expressions, well, it's critical that you do so because this is everywhere in algebra. All right. But always keep in mind, okay, whether it's adding or subtracting, multiplying, dividing, anything with algebra, always keep in mind that these variables represent numbers. So again, a good strategy is to replace those variables with numbers and then think about the equivalent problem from a numeric standpoint. All right. So with all that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your math adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.